Since 1968, the Private Education Assistance Committee, or PEAC, trustee of the Fund for Assistance to Private Education, has been an effective partner of government and the private education sector in operationalizing the complementarity between private and public schools towards an integrated Philippine education system that will benefit the Filipino learners. In recognition of the valuable contribution of the private education sector to the country's development, the Fund for Assistance to Private Education, or FAPE, a permanent and irrevocable trust fund for the programs of assistance to private education, was established on November 5, 1968 through Executive Order 156, Series of 1968, which also constituted the PEAC. The PEAC is composed of the Secretary of the Department of Education as the ex-officio chair and a representative each from the National Economic Development Authority, Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines, Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities, and Association of Christian Schools, Colleges, and Universities. For the development of private education in the country, the PEAC fulfills its roles as funder, advocate, partner, and enabler. A national secretariat headed by an executive director implements the policies, programs, and initiatives of the PEAC for private education. The PEAC is also present in 16 regions through its regional secretariats. Presidents of credible private educational institutions and associations in the regions are invited by the PEAC to become regional program directors and to host the regional secretariats in their respective institutions. The regional program directors designate regional program coordinators for the day-to-day operations of the regional secretariats. To ensure the growth of FAPE and its other funds, the PEAC constituted an investment advisory group and has engaged external fund managers whose performance is reviewed regularly. The PEAC has also provided assistance to public policy development and advocacy initiatives that support the improvement and sustainability of the private education sector. It worked with the sector for the passage of a landmark piece of legislation that is anchored on the principle of complementarity in the Philippine education system, which the Philippine Constitution has long recognized. In 1989, Republic Act No. 6728, or the Government Assistance to Students and Teachers in Private Education, or GASPE, was legislated. GASPE, which was amended by Republic Act No. 8545 in 1998, institutionalized government assistance to private education in the country. The PEAC was involved in the development of the Education Service Contracting, or ESC, one of the programs identified by the GASPE law, from piloting a scheme which was a precursor to the ESC in 1982 to 1986, to implementing the ESC in 1986 to 1991, and from 1996 up to the present. Given the track record of the PEAC in program management, the Department of Education continues to contract the PEAC to co-implement the ESC, the In-Service Training or INSET, and thereafter the Senior High School Voucher Program when Republic Act 10533 expanded the beneficiaries of DepEd's GASPE program to learners in grades 11 and 12. The PEAC has the following responsibilities in the GASPE program: orientation for participating schools, certification of ESC schools, SHS voucher application, processing of billing statements, monitoring, resolving cases of schools with adverse findings, regular meetings and consultations with stakeholders, research and data gathering, and in-service training for junior high school and senior high school administrators and teachers. The Commission on Higher Education and UNIFAS Board also engaged the PEAC to co-implement the Tertiary Education Subsidy, or TES program for private higher education institutions in academic year 2019 to 2020. The TES is one of the programs under Republic Act No. 10931, or the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act. The PEAC is accredited as a continuing professional development provider by the Professional Regulation Commission. Training programs designed and implemented by the PEAC have been awarded CPD credit units by the PRC, which participants can use for the renewal of their professional licenses. It also supports research that will help the private education sector improve educational delivery and its implementation of government subsidy programs at the school level. The efficiency of the PEAC to implement programs on a national scale is further strengthened with its development and management of systems to handle various processes: Enterprise Information System, Information Management System, Voucher Management System, Online Voucher Application Portal, Certification System, Program Monitoring System, Training and Development System, and TES Management System. The PEAC also implements its own programs for the private education sector, the assistance to programs and initiatives to reform education for private educational associations, the research for school improvement towards excellence for private school administrators and teachers writing their thesis and dissertation, the dissemination assistance to research and education for school administrators and faculty members who will present their papers in international conferences abroad, the Leading for Educational Achievement Program for private schools working on their areas for improvement towards PEAC certification, the Rethinking Education Championing and Accelerating School Transformation for private schools making the transition to online learning, the Philippine Education Research Journal for decision makers, policymakers, and practitioners in education, and the Philippine Education Conference and the PEAC Educational Leadership Series, or LIDER, for school leaders and other training programs that address the needs of the sector. Recognizing the efficiency, diversity, and innovativeness of the private schools in achieving quality in Philippine education, the PEAC is committed to promoting private education as an integral part of our education system.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong buhaw, may dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagpininig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng luwalhati pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mang-aapi, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Let us remember that we are in the most holy presence of our God. Almighty Father, let us offer you our admiration and gratitude for all the amazing plans fulfilled in your time, and for all the forms of love we receive from your heart every day. Today, we surrender to you our worries and hopes for our nation and for the Filipinos. Today, we implore that you send forth your instruments of wisdom and kindness. While we are still healing as one people, we seek clarity and comfort from you, that we may once again reach milestones and stand in both humility and service. While our learners are strained by their gaps in learning, we seek aid from you, that they may use the tools you gifted them with prudence and purpose. While our schools are recovering from the long battle against the pandemic, we seek guidance and inspiration from you, that they may be able to create and fortify innovative ways of instruction. Dear Father, may your faith in us bear fruits, as we are together in rebuilding our motherland, nurturing our learners, and elevating our schools. All these we pray in our Lord's most holy name. Amen.
Good morning to all our viewers, especially the private school teachers from various regions of the country. We are live today for the 7th webinar series of LIDER. My name is Pressy, and we are going to talk about the use of AI to address learning gaps in literacy. In 2022, UNICEF warns of shockingly low levels of learning, with only a third of 10-year-olds globally estimated to be able to read and understand a simple written story. In a joint report of UNICEF, UNESCO, and World Bank, less than 15% of Filipino children can read a simple text at age 10. The UNICEF report said that less than 15% of school children in the Philippines, or about 3 in every 20, can read simple text in large due to the longest school closures of more than 70 weeks as of the middle of February last year caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The World Bank, UNESCO, and UNICEF recommend that each country adopt a learning recovery program of evidence-based strategies to accelerate learning. Learning gaps can be closed through interventions, approaches, and strategies that are best customized, appropriate to the context of the school. One approach and opportunity to close learning gaps is the use of artificial intelligence, or what we call AI. But schools need guidance on this emerging technology. This morning, we have 2 resource speakers to enlighten us on using AI to address learning gaps in literacy. Our first speaker is Ms. Selena Lee. She has been an educator since 2009, having obtained a diploma in education from the National Institute of Education in Singapore, and has recently completed her advanced certificate in learning performance in her quest to sharpen her skills in adult learning. Prior to her educational journey, she attained a bachelor's degree in sociology with communication from Singapore University of Social Sciences. Her initial teaching experience was in a top school in the Ministry of Education in Singapore, where she was trained to teach students of all ages. She then moved on to gain further experience in international schools with both the International Baccalaureate and Cambridge curriculum. Selena's passion and dedication to teaching has led her to pursue her endeavors in education and conduct teacher trainings. She is currently working with Marshall Cavendish Education and is responsible for providing teachers with the necessary skills and resources they need to effectively teach students. Her forte is in the English language, and she partakes in the developmental process of digital platforms dedicated to help teaching and learning in the digital age today. Hi, Selena. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Prissy.
Our second speaker is Mr. Mark Stanley. Mark is an experienced entrepreneur and thought leader in the educational technology and enterprise risk management sectors. He's the founder and managing director of Better Assessments and Literato Pty Limited, 2 successful companies in the educational assessment and measurement space. Mark has won numerous awards for his work, including Software Designer of the Year Award, bronze medal at the 2011 Australian Learning Impact Awards, bronze medal in the 2012 International Learning Impact Awards, and runner-up in the Australian Innovation Awards for Education. He has also spoken at numerous international conferences. Mark has a degree in business and computer science from the University of Technology, Sydney. In November 2014, Mark was appointed non-exec director of Northern Beaches Christian School. He is currently driving the development of the Literato K-12 educational assessment and measurement platform, and has over 4,000 teachers using the platform across 8 countries, with Literato gaining momentum in global markets. His other company, Better Assessments, has deployed over 200 interactive ESL-based activities across 4 English skills, with over 80,000 activities completed online today. Welcome, Mark, to the LIDER webinar of PEAC. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Morning, Prissy. Thank you for having me.
We shall now begin with the presentation of our first speaker, Ms. Selena Lee.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I'm going to take this time to share my slides. All right, we're good to go. Good morning, everyone. My name is Selena Lee, and I'm the English Product Specialist. I mean, amidst all the introduction, I really just call myself the English Product Specialist for Marshall Cavendish Education Singapore. Thank you for joining me in today's session, where we discover more about how teachers today can be empowered by artificial intelligence to continue doing what we do best, which is to impart knowledge and inspire teachability to nurture the future generation. So what is AI? I'm going to touch on that, and how we can use it to transform the traditional classroom we know today and envision a learning environment that prepares our students for the future. To answer these questions more adequately, we first need to put on a special kind of lens, which I found to be very helpful in helping teachers and various stakeholders envision what is to come and better prepare for potential challenges. So I present to you the education lens. LENS stands for Longitudinal Emergence Scatterplot for Education. In an insight report between the World Economic Forum and Deloitte back in 2021, they used 3 analysis tools. We have trend lines, projections, and filters. They were used to create this lens diagram that you see here, which actually provides stakeholders with a clear and compelling rubric to think about where domain-specific futures are headed. So are they going exponentially negative? Are they going exponentially positive? Are there trends that are cyclical? So if you were to take a closer look at the cyclical part, we have a portion that says focus on liberal arts and international exchange. This is something that goes up in trend, down in trend, up in trend, down in trend. So that's what we call cyclical. There are some linear trends that are heading downward. We have rote memorization, physical content, population with no education. So all these are domain-specific futures that where they are headed. We have the ones going up, like homeschooling, digital content, which are already prevalent in today's society, but they are going on an upward trend. And we have those that are exponentially positive, which are examples like higher education costs, MOOCs, and online native institutions. So with the use of foresight and some imagination, we see that all these trends lead to what we call the future and how we can envision it. We are able to envision what tomorrow brings with both intellectual clarity based on the trends and an empathetic sense of purpose. So we'll look closer into the future. I think we have had a lot of setbacks dealing with the pandemic and trying to get everyone back on track. But it seems like this track looks different from what it started with. So there are a lot of challenges that we face, and we're looking at how we can resolve that in a way that is agreeable with most societies, right? So we first talk about personalizing education for the future. So I think this is something that's coming up a lot. So you see at the probable area, we have this thing called gig economy and gig learning, which means that this is the part where you realize that the traditional skill sets no longer play a huge role. Instead, they have tiny little skill sets all combined to create a gig. So this what we call gig working economy. And if it continues to increase in the future, so will the gig learning economy. So the pace of technological change in the workplace is unlikely to slow down because there are current data showing trends and giving statements such as 65% of children entering primary school today will ultimately end up working in completely new job types that don't yet exist. Thus, in tomorrow's careers, lifelong learning will become something that is necessary as a means of staying relevant. How can we bring up the next generation to become lifelong learners and hence start a continuum of learning that they can take with them for life? So over time, there will be enough people investing in lifelong learning, and that might naturally encourage the expansion of something we call nano degrees. So nano degrees are already prevalent in some institutions where if you say you want to take a master's today, the master's program won't be just for one course of study, but they have this thing called stacked master's degree where you can pick from a buffet of courses and complete 4 of them to certify yourself with a master's degree. So nano degrees can then exist as various project and skills-based educational credentials delivered entirely online, which is far quicker to obtain than a conventional area of study beyond just computer science. This allows individuals to more easily keep pace with rapidly changing skills landscape. And we talk about the increase in tuition, for example. It continues to rise and is going to continue to increase. These rising prices will cause institutional education to be unattainable for future generations. So hence, we will re-evaluate the value of the traditional accreditation and evaluate the scene we find ourselves in today. Again, how do stakeholders play a part to do things differently and churn out ideals that are unfamiliar to us? So we're looking at personalizing education. Then the second part, we're looking at digitized and virtualized content. So the demand for physical classrooms and physical textbooks will be falling exponentially, whereas the market for digital classrooms will be growing exponentially. So one example would be, again, we were talking about MOOCs earlier, which is massive open online courses. It has grown a 10% year on year, which means there are more people taking up lifelong learning skills, and all these skill sets actually should be something that we talk about at a young age. So digitizing and virtualizing education is definitely more economically efficient, but that's not the only incentive. We realize that we are at an information age where it is unparalleled at this large scale to any period of time in the human history. And because of that, globally, attention spans amongst young learners have decreased dramatically. So these trends, even though it seems like it's a downward trend, is actually creating rich soil for innovations in digital classrooms and other learning experiences such as micro-learning and immersive learning. Right. In another recent report in May this year, they talk about how AI can help achieve educational priorities at a larger scale with lower cost, addressing a lot of unfinished learning because students come into the classroom at different levels. We are addressing varied unfinished learning of students because of the pandemic. That becomes a priority, and AI can help to improve the adaptability of learning resources according to, again, personalized learning, students' strengths and needs. So these tools such as automated assistants, which we'll talk about more AI, will help provide teachers with greater support as well. So in an area where we find ourselves unfamiliar with, like with the pandemic, with the change of the educational scene as we speak, these are areas where teachers are looking out for, like where's the training that's coming to me? How can I support and extend that support to individual students when time is of essence? So developing resources that are responsive to knowledge and experiences becomes this great need for customizability of resources to meet the needs. So we already see AI at work with voice assistants, mapping tools, shopping recommendations, essay writing capabilities, and other familiar applications that we use on a daily basis. So AI is already here. We don't have to fear it. We just need to know how to harness it for good use. So what exactly does AI in education look like? So AI is the process of using computers and machines to mimic human perception. So you're getting yourself an assistant for decision making and other processes to complete a task. AI is when machines engage in high-level pattern matching. So they're trying to read how a human would react, how the human brain works, and learning in the process. So there are two types of AI. Today we'll talk more about machine learning because that's the AI that really will help teachers in the long run. So there's the rules-based AI, which uses decision-making rules to produce a recommendation or a solution. Example would be the ITS, which is the Intelligent Tutoring System, which provides granular and specific feedback to students. And then the second type of AI we're looking at is machine learning-based AI. So it learns and becomes better over time. So it's like studying you, particularly as they engage with large multi-layered data sets. It is used to monitor student activity over a period of time or long periods of time, and it creates models that accurately predict student outcomes. So by profiling and individualizing a student, you can better cater to the needs, the learning needs, and the strengths, weaknesses of the student, right? So to put my words into action, I'm going to actually show you a video. Try to absorb as much as you can. This video is about what machine learning is, and I'm going to use that same video to see if you understood what was coming out from that. So you take yourself as like students today, okay?
Our ability to learn and get better at tasks through experience is part of being human. When we're born, we know almost nothing and can do almost nothing for ourselves. But soon, we're learning and becoming more capable every day. But did you know that computers can do the same? Machine learning brings together statistics and computer science to enable computers to learn how to do a given task without being programmed to do so. Just as your brain uses experience to improve at a task, so can computers. Say you need a computer that can tell the difference between a picture of a dog and a picture of a cat. You could begin by feeding it images and telling it, this one's a dog, that one's a cat. A computer programmed to learn will seek statistical patterns within the data that will enable it to recognise a cat or a dog in the future. It might figure out on its own that cats have shorter noses and that dogs come in a larger variety of sizes, and then represent that information numerically, organising it in space. But, crucially, it's the computer, not the programmer, that identifies those patterns and establishes the algorithm by which future data will be sorted. One example of a simple yet highly effective algorithm is to find the optimal line separating cats from dogs. When the computer sees a new picture, it checks which side of the line it falls on and then says either cat or dog. But of course there can be mistakes. The more data the computer receives, the more finely tuned its algorithm becomes, and the more accurate it can be in its predictions. Machine learning is already widely applied. It's the technology behind facial recognition, text and speech recognition, spam filters on your inbox, online shopping or viewing recommendations, credit card fraud detection, and so much more. At the University of Oxford, machine learning researchers are combining statistics and computer science to build algorithms that can solve more complex problems more efficiently, using less computing power. From medical diagnoses to social media, the potential of machine learning to transform our world is truly mind-blowing. To find out more about machine learning, visit oxfordsparks.ox.ac.uk, follow us on Twitter, and find us on Facebook.
Right, so that was a very short introduction, brief introduction of how machine learning works. We talk about personalization. So we're actually teaching the machines how to differentiate one student from the other because they are all very different and varied. And this is something that as teachers we can't do individually for each individual student, especially if you're facing a class of 40, 50, some even 100 students. You want to be efficient, you want to be effective, but time is not on your side. So what can we do, right? So today I'm going to show you what Digital English Campus looks like. And we are going to create a YouTube quiz. We are going to do a lot of other things as well. So if you follow me closely, and if there's a QR code that you need to scan, or a link that you need to click on, maybe you can follow, and then you can see how it will look like for your student, right? So let me just share my screen for Digital English Campus. All right, so this is the video that you watched earlier. I'm going to click on it, copy the link, and I'm going to use my Digital English Campus to help me to build a quiz, right? So students are watching a lot of videos on a daily basis. They have a lot of content going on. How much of the content do they actually remember is something that we constantly ask ourselves. So what better way than to actually get them on a test? Okay, let me open this up. This is Scribot, supported by GPT, or if you are familiar with ChatGPT. This is within the context of a teacher school environment. So you don't have to worry about basically anything that's got to do with content that is not suitable for the young mind. All right, so I will go on and click here, transcribe a YouTube video to create a linked quiz. They will ask me for the YouTube video URL. This is where I will paste the URL. I can have the transcript for the full video, and I do not want to include the transcript below the video. So they will ask me which school grade or year is your class. So here, there are opportunities for differentiated learning. For an effective class to take place, the usual advice would be to segregate your class into different groups so that they are learning at their peak. So if you have a class with varied levels of learning or readiness, you can put different grade levels. So this video could be for a grade 12. It could also be for a grade 5. So for the sake of demonstration, I would go with grade 5. And maybe I would like to choose 5 questions. I could choose any number of questions that I want and then use that to look at the quality of questions that Scribot actually proposes and whether or not it's relevant to my lesson, and do some weeding later. So maybe I want 5, but maybe I'll choose 8. And then the type of questions that I want, I can choose multiple choice. I can also choose Boolean questions, which are the true-false questions. I can choose 2 types. I'll choose multiple choice. Okay, looks like
What's going on with Scribot? Oh,
Okay, let's try that again. Do a quick one. I must have put the page on for too long. Okay, it's not moving. Okay, I think there's some connection issue, but what would take place would actually be the quiz will be done based on the transcript that was provided from the video. And then while you are while the students are looking at the video, you can assign it to classes, and you have a few that you have assigned to the class. And what you can do is you can go into the task that they are doing and do some form of monitoring. So for example, I will click on this quiz. I think this is the same quiz. Let me see. Oh yes, this is the quiz. Very good. So I will do an assign. View assignment links. Okay, so if you can see this QR code here, you can scan the QR code. I'll see if I can drop the link. Are we able to drop the link into the Facebook live chat? Right, if you have the link, go into the quiz and start doing. And I will view activity progress, or I can mark the assignment. So what you see here, I'm not sure if you can catch up, but what you see here is a teacher marking queue. What happens is I've given a quiz online based on the YouTube video that you've just watched, and I'm giving you questions that I can monitor. So I have a student, because this is accessible anonymously, so we have a lot of different user from Australia, Indonesia, Philippines, China. So I can ask for your name, and once I have the name, or if it's within my student class, I would have the student's name here, which I can blur out if I want to show them how it looks like on the screen, like what I'm looking at, and they can look at their responses and the score that they get. So very quickly, I can look at the different questions that are posed. Those questions were actually created by the AI, and I can use this to gauge how many students actually got what the video was talking about, and what kind of remediation I need. Very quickly, I can get 100 students on board to do this quiz based on the video that I've shown. All right, so let's go back to other things that I want to show you. Now, if I am an English teacher, my resources to teach are not only from the textbook. Of course, if it's from the textbook, that's great. But if it's not from the textbook, what I can actually do is to look at, I just Googled this on earlier on and asked the news outlet. So you might not agree with this news outlet, or you might not subscribe to it, but I'm just going to show you an example. I'm a reader of Inquirer.net. I'm looking at this article today called Metro Manila Households Face Daily Water Supply Cut. Now, this is something that is current affairs. It is something that was posted this morning at 6 a.m., around 6 a.m. And I want my students to read this article, and I want to get them to try out some questions as well. So based on the article, it could be something that I want them to practice comprehension skills. So it could be any text that you find yourself looking at. You can copy this text and go ahead and create an activity. Now let's see if the AI works. So this is a quiz on water cut, or water supply cut. Right, I'll create a quiz and I will put in the text. I'll select a question type, again, multiple choice. And again, this is differentiated learning. I can choose any of the years that I would like. And I can use that I can create multiples of this with different year very quickly, and then get them to do different. I can assign it to different students in my class. Let's see if this thing will work with me. So I can use any materials that I have, any resources, something that I'm reading. It could be the Time magazine. It could be the, I mean, if you have a fashion magazine and your students are interested in fashion, why not, right? So we have a lot of questions that came out from this text. And again, if the connection is good, you'll get it within seconds. And very quickly, you can get some questions based on the text that you have provided. So if I do a preview mode, the students will start by reading, or you can drop the link for them to read. And after that, again, give them a quiz on any of the materials that you find yourself sharing with them, so that it will give them some form of comprehension to do, and that can improve their English skills. So when I click on assign, I can assign it to my class. I can select the class. I might have an English class, I might have a history class, I might have a science class, and I can select my students. What that means is if I have 10 students in my class and I don't want all of them to have the same resources, I've differentiated learning, I can select only a few, and that itself, when I assign it, it will appear on these 6 students assignment page for them to do, right? I can do the same for other levels as well. So this is a useful tool that teachers can use to assign. On top of this, we have something called the speaking task. So if it's something that I want my students to practice reading, so for example, this text here, I can copy it and I can create a speaking task. So this is a scripted speaking task. So before students actually attempt the questions, maybe I get them to do some form of reading. Why is this important, and how does this address the pain point that we have as teachers? So when we have what we call an oral exam, a speaking exam, we get students to read a certain passage. And the reading of the passage sometimes requires us as teachers or examiners to listen to the same passage many times. Like if you have 50 students, you have to listen to it 50 times. That's during the exam. But what about during practice? I would have to listen to my student read more than just once. So in this case, I can use AI to help me. I put a script in there and get them to practice their reading. So they could be reading from different genres of text. So it doesn't have to be only a narrative story. It could also be from a non-fiction text like a newspaper article or a magazine article online. So what happens is when I have a script, I get them to read and they can record. This is done, if you can see the interface of it, is actually useful for mobile phones. So students can do it on the go. If they can find themselves in a quiet spot where they do this recording, it'll be most helpful. So let me go ahead and try reading this. He said the Departments of Environment, Public Works, Agriculture, the National Irrigation Administration, coordinating to address the looming water shortage in the coming months. So you see that I deliberately miss out some words as well, so as to see if this AI can effectively pick out certain words that I missed out. So you realize that the words that I missed out will be in red. So it's the words that I did not pronounce well. The words that are in red are words that I can improve on. So this, I have an overall score. This score can also be used according to the CEFR banding. So this will be helpful for students to gauge where they are at. And if they would like to do a re-recording again, they can always flip the card and do the record again. So what happens again? Teachers will get a teacher marking queue where you can either change the marks or give more qualitative feedback for students to improve on, right? So you can also use Scribboard to help you with multilingual help. So I can say, translate this to Tagalog. So based on the short paragraph, I want my students to quickly understand what they were reading. I could provide a short snippet of what that sentence means in Tagalog. So that's something that they can look at, and it helps with their comprehension skills as well. And because we are talking a lot about the history, the future, not history, the future of education will depend on the history, right? So what I want my students, let's say I've given them a lesson on my students, meaning you, the people behind the screens, I gave them a lesson on the future of education, right? So I actually want them to write an essay on the future of education. How do they view themselves in the future scene? I want some imagination, some vision. So I give them a scaffold generator. So what is a scaffold generator? When students start writing, we want them to be very systematic and organized with their writing skills. So before we even give them a topic, we want them to have some scaffold, some idea or some questions that they can think about before they start writing. So I want them to write on the future of education. So let's say I'm a teacher that I have no idea what the future of education looks like, but I do want my students to think and dream about it, right? So I give them an essay for scaffold. If I want to make it into a scribble writing activity, I can go ahead and click on this. If I don't want to, I can just get them to do that practice. Later, Mark will show you more on this. So maybe it's for year 8. I want them to write on the future of education, and I need to help them in their writing process. How do I help them? Am I going to sit down and spend a couple of hours thinking about it? The answer is no, I don't have that sort of time. I might have another topic for students in my class that are not so savvy with the language. So the topic is on the future of education. What you see here is before they start writing, they will plan their essay. So there are some keywords. If you're talking about future of education, you have to write words like education, technology, future, learning, online, curriculum, innovation. So these are some keywords that you might like to use in your writing. So these are for students to consider. Some phrases that they can use. Again, you see that I've created this writing scaffold within seconds. Adapt to the times. These are phrases that they can use. How do we revolutionize education? Out with the old, in with the new. So these level the playing field. So now this is not a game of who is richer and therefore have higher education. How can we level the playing field? Planning the writing, there's the introduction. So there'll be some scaffolds to ask the students to explain why the topic is important, provide an overview of the essay, discuss how technology is influencing the way we learn, explain. So it will take the student on a journey of generating ideas to write about the future. What is the impact of what we have today and the potential on like potential benefits and drawbacks of changes to come, and then some conclusion. So this is how they can do their scaffolding. And with that, before I pass on the time to Mark, I just want to tell you that I don't have a lot of time to go in depth to what tools teachers can use. But if you are interested to find out more, please email this person, Ryan Low, at mceeducation.com to find out more. And given the time that we have today, I can only give you a brief introduction. There's so much more to learn and so much more to discover about the world of AI. And with that, I will end my session. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Selena. We have Mark for his presentation.
Hi, everybody. Let me just share my screen and get my presentation up and running for you. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I'll go into presentation mode and we'll take off. Thanks, Selena. AI really is a really interesting space. And I think when they named it artificial intelligence, maybe what they should have done was name it additional instructor, because really that's what the whole purpose of these products are, is to really get alongside you, not take your job, but help you do a better job and do it in less time with more engagement. So, I think the big trick in education is for teachers to understand how they can use this sort of technology to do more in their role as a teacher, not worry about what it does, and how it does it, but really get in the front of the whole thing and make it work for them. And that's what we're going to try and show you today. And that's what I think Selena was trying to show you was just how quickly you can come up with an idea and you can engage students. So there's a huge reduction in the time it takes you. Can you imagine doing that scaffold in PowerPoint? You'd be there all day. You'd be worried about spelling mistakes, how it looks, the fonts, the colors, the alignment. It would never go to their phone. It would be really hard to do. But a couple of clicks, a good idea, a couple of clicks, and you're back in the game, and you've got students coming along that learning journey with you. So that's really what AI is about, and how you can use it. So what I'm going to do is really take you through a couple of pieces of research that says how, what you've got to do to get students to the next level. Okay, we can all talk about the COVID loss and the learning loss. I think we know all about that. We feel it every day. We see it every day in the students. Our job is to move forwards from that and help teachers identify where they can lift each student individually. Now that's a huge job, right? Because you walk into a classroom of 40 students and you're immediately outnumbered, and you've got 40 different types of learners in front of you, and they've all lost a certain amount of learning and they've all retained a certain amount of learning, and you have to find out where that is and how you can make it work for the whole class and each student individually. Huge job. It was hard before the pandemic. It's even harder now. So what you've got to have access to is information. You have to have that additional instructor working with you to get data so you can target teaching, save time, and get students back in the learning game. I think a lot of teachers that I talk to sort of say, look, the kids are kind of like, they're a bit lost there. They don't really want to come back to the classroom, but they do like the social interaction, but they're not really engaging with the old style of learning. They want to be more digital online. So, it's a complex kind of thing that we've just got to push through. And, in each class, I think this is my summary of each class. Let me see if I can get rid of that. There are 8 types of writers, and you've got a bell curve in your class, right? So you've got all the way from competent to people who've given up, and all the way in between. So I think these 8 types of writers summarize almost every. I'm sure that while you're looking at this, you're thinking about students and you say, oh yeah, he's definitely distressed, or she's definitely stressed about writing, and he's really unsure, and yep, Johnny over in the corner, he's definitely given up. So this is your student base. This is your results curve. Every principal, every school likes to have a results curve. They like to have students pushing through at high levels of learning. Let's be realistic. You've got a mixed bag of a lot of different types of skills, and that's makes it really, really hard. So what makes writing hard is that it's metacognitive. It's not just writing. It's what Selena was talking about. It's speaking. If you don't have a vocabulary to speak, you've got a limited vocabulary to write. If you can't comprehend what the question is, you're not going to write very well to the question. So it's a huge range of skills that literacy brings together, and that's what makes it hard, really hard. It's the hardest job, is to teach writing. And all these learning gaps that students have, they impact them in different ways. Some students don't know what an advanced cohesive is. They don't know how to use, advanced methods of joining sentences together. So they just keep saying and and that's really limiting. There's a learning gap that you got to fix, and somebody else will have a learning gap that uses as, So all of these things come together in different ways for different students. And, the only way to improve it is to reduce the time it takes you to get to them and lift their ability to engage in the learning. They won't engage in learning now unless it's a bit more fun and a bit more about them, okay? The classroom style thing where a teacher can engage 40 students at once is really difficult. Engaging 40 students in individual ways is really the challenge. And to do that, you need an additional instructor. You don't need to take it on yourself. You'll never get there. It's too hard. And the learning loss will continue. What we need to do is shake the tree and get a new instructor on the game. So this is what's critical. At the current rate of research, 80 hours a week, teachers are working, 80 extra hours a week. Sorry, that's a month. So 20 hours a week, right? So across a month, you're going to get teachers burning out, doing, all of this lifting, and you're going to suffer classroom engagement issues. So on the left-hand side here, the current state, research says, is that students are disengaging from learning and teachers are working harder than ever trying to get them back up. Okay, so what has to happen is we have to have teachers working way less hours, and we have to have students more engaged in taking responsibility and more, sort of more interactivity in their learning. And that's what Selena was showing you. And like if someone's got speaking issues and you need to get to them, you get to them in a very quick way using AI. Your time goes down. They love it. They're on their phone. They're using their phone. They love their phone. They're talking to their phone. The phone's giving them the response. You can see the response. They don't like what they're doing. They flip the card, they do it again. It's an iterative practice environment that is really engaging, where students can make the best of it and teachers can make the best of it as well. So this is the challenge. We've got to reverse the amount of time that you're spending and lift the engagement students are having. And there's some really cool ways to do that now. So Benjamin Bloom, all the way back in 1984, when Aldous Huxley wrote 1984 and the world was going to end, the classroom is your reality, okay? To move performance in your classroom, there's two ways to do it. There's what's called reinforcement learning, which is a lot of work, but very effective, where you run a lot of individual assessments for everything that you teach, and you kind of like make sure you reinforce learning along that continuum. But the ultimate way to lift students from 50% to 90% is one-on-one tutoring. It can't, it's been proven so many times that the more teacher time students have, the better the students will learn. Now, that's a really tough call because we just talked about time, right? You don't have any time. So really, the research hasn't changed all the way through up until now. The research is the same. If you sit down individually with a student, you'll get a great result, but you've got 40 of them. And if you've got 5 classes of 40, you've got 200 of them. So it's impossible. We have to find a better way to do that. And this is where the additional instructor, the AI, kicks in and becomes a one-on-one friend of the family. So personalized teaching makes a huge difference. Teachers can't keep doing what they're doing. You need an additional instructor, and you have to save time and increase engagement. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is show you how Scribo, the writing side of what Selena was showing you, actually works for a teacher. So, sort of to continue the story, Selena finished off by setting up an essay about the future of education. Let's push that through and say, okay, all of the students engaged with it, they're now writing. Your next problem is you've got possibly, 40 essays of 500 words. That's 20,000 words you have to read, you have to grade, you have to give feedback on, you have to, right? That's a lot of work. So really where we get into, if I can just move this out of the way, where we sort of bounce back into this whole environment in Literatu is here. The story of the teacher who walks into the classroom. So you walk into a classroom and you've got possibly 4 or 5 classrooms. You've potentially in each classroom got lots of writing activities because, the only way to get better at writing is to write more. So you can't have one thing on the go. You've got to have multiple things on the go. And if you've got varying ranges of students, you're going to have some doing an easy work, some doing a more advanced work. So you've got a lot going on in your classroom. How do you keep up with it is the challenge. And that's where teachers spend 20 hours to 30 hours a week trying to catch up. We put you right in front of the game. So you walk into that classroom, they've got an essay on the run, one click, and you get 3 things. You get to see the first essay from the student, Jenny, over here, and you get to see Jenny's writing. Here on the left, her feedback and scoring on the right, and the class on the far right. So we've got 3 things going on here. Jenny has got a score of 74. Your class is over here on the right-hand side. So you might have 30 students. You'll have a list of 30 students. You'll have all of their grades. You'll know how many words they've written. And on the left-hand side here, you see what they've written. So here, immediately, I can see Jenny got 74. One click, I can tell you why she got 74. Scribo has graded it for you. Scribo has told you why that grade is 74. You've got grammar issues and your long sentence issues. Now, Jenny can see this as well, right? It's not a secret. Both sides of the equation are connected. So the student, Jenny, is looking at this going, if I just fix my grammar, I could get another 10 marks back. So nothing's stopping Jenny. We've got all the support here for Jenny to go through and learn about how she could improve her writing individually. You're not doing anything. You're not even reading the essay, but what you have got access to is exactly what's troubling each one of your students. So you can click through any one of them and get a refresh on where they're at, what they're thinking, how they're writing, and what scores they're getting and why they're getting these scores. So it's really interesting to sort of put teachers in a spot where they don't have to do all that work. Their next challenge is, how do I help this student improve past where they are? So you've got data. You've got the ability to see into the writing and have a look at what's going on with the writing. Why are they getting 84? How can I help them move past 84? And what possibly improvements could I help them make to get even better grades? So in a couple of clicks, we've got this additional instructor working for us. There's no more for you to do other than to get in touch with it and then apply what you know now to how you can teach tomorrow. So you've got to pick up where you're at, and you've got to understand where students are at, and you've got to reteach tomorrow how to make them better. That's a different job description than you sitting here all weekend, crossing out red pen, comma, putting in all the corrections, doing a lot more work sometimes than the students. It's a different kind of job, but it's the job that you signed up for. It's the one to help them get better, not the one to do their work for them. Okay, so there's a lot of different feedback channels inside Scribo. I won't go through all of them, but some of the ones that make the biggest difference, I think, to teachers is the ability to have the system doing a lot of the feedback for students. Students get to see all of the different things that you can see here. Like if I've got hard to read sentences, I'll isolate hard to read sentences. Students can see that as well. So it's up to them now to take on this learning and try and make it a better sentence. You can watch that happen. You can watch them try, and you can watch them experiment with writing, and we track everything in history. So you don't sort of lose connection with the student, you actually keep a much stronger connection with the student. And this is really, I think, relaxes teachers because it's written for teachers. We didn't sort of write this in a vacuum. We've worked with teachers across a continuum, and Selena and her team for the last 3 years to make this very teacher focused. It's quick, it's a couple of clicks, and it's right there, what you need. And that's the most important thing. And as you can see, I'm not clicking around like crazy man. I'm just doing a couple of little movements on screen to get me in touch with each student. Now, there's always this big threat around, ChatGPT. Are the kids using ChatGPT to do their homework? Of course they are, right? If you've got access to a computer, you've got access to ChatGPT, you've got access to writing your essay for you, no problem. Just accept that that's happening. But also know that if you do click on a student and you're worried about, where that might have come from, you've got the ability to detect. Okay, one click and we can detect what's been written by GPT. So I'd suggest we just give Jenny or Yenny in this case 0. Say, why don't you write it yourself? It's that simple. You don't have to worry about it. Just accept that she's doing that. Tell her not to do it and give her 0 and she'll stop doing it. So I think we're just going to walk past some of the big troubles that we see, as big roadblocks. They're not roadblocks. Students will use GPT, but you can find out who. So you're back in control. And that's really all you need to have as a teacher. You need to have that ability to not be in a corner where someone's wasting your time. Yeah, you need to be right in the front of their learning progression, in front of where they are and where they need to be, and in a very positive frame. And so that's where Scribo puts you as a teacher. So just to recap, we got a lot of feedback. We've got a lot of overview of the class, and some of the extra things that come with this are just amazing. So, if you've got 20,000 words in here, if that was in paper and I said to you, what do you think you should teach tomorrow? You'd look at me and say, well, I haven't read them all yet. I don't know. That's too much work. You don't need to read all these essays about the Mediterranean world or the future of education. You don't need to know the detail. You need to know how to make it better. Okay. So how can you do that? One more click and we'll give you a monitoring data panel where we can see, compare this essay with the last essay the students might have done, and you'll see movement, okay? You'll see that students are getting stronger or weaker in certain elements of writing. So in this case, Jenny was even on spelling. Her grammar got a bit better, but her punctuation went down, and passive voice. She started using a lot of passive voice. So these are heads up to you that something is moving in terms of how students are learning. And these are the touch points for you to say to Jenny, Jenny, thanks for your essay, but I want to talk to you about punctuation. What went wrong? Okay, you're straight on the game. You don't have to read it. You don't have to red pen it. You don't have to remember anything. You just did one click and you can talk to Jenny about her weakest point, which might be punctuation. If you can do that, Jenny will get better. Now that's how you use your time at the speed of having an additional instructor in the room. Okay, it was one click to get there. If you want to send Jenny home with a report to think about her writing and collect all that feedback that we gave Jenny, one more click and we can send Jenny home with a report, PDF, with all of the feedback. Her parents will love it. She'll love it. Everyone loves it. You just did that whole report in one click. You'll love it too. So these are the steps I think that we're really focused on in getting an additional instructor inside the context of a classroom without all that worry and, oh, is it going to work or what's going to happen? You just let that go and let this go and have it work for you, because that's really what the end of the day is all about. We want you doing less. We want you with better information, and we want students with better feedback. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are hidden behind the icons. I won't go into all of them, but I'll show you some of the new things that we're doing. So, and have been released inside Scribo. So this is what we call the writing process, where we're talking about things like vocabulary, word levels, word choices, repeated words, cohesion, the structures, the basics of writing, the way you go about writing. Words form sentences, sentences form paragraphs, sentences need punctuation, sentences need variety. That's what we call the process of writing. And that's what, grammar, punctuation, spelling, you spend a lot of your time teaching students that, this is not the correct way to do things. You do it this way. But there comes a point where you've got to talk about the product that they're producing. Now, is it answering the question? Is it a good argument? Is it a good analysis of the evidence? Did they talk both sides of an argument? Did they say how the advantages would work, how the disadvantages would work? That's what we call the product, the writing product. And as students get older, you focus less on process, hopefully, and more on product to make them a stronger writer. Okay, that's where your little Scribot friend comes into play. So you've got, again, come back, you've got 40 essays on the Mediterranean world. They're each 500 words long, lot of reading. Why don't you just do one click and suggest individually for each student 3 ways to improve the text? Okay, so in one click, it's read the essay for you and it's come up with 3 ways you could improve it. If you like the look of that, you can just one more click and that is sent to the student as live feedback for the essay. So the student's now got feedback from you about how to improve. You did that in one click, okay? Just imagine the first paragraph was really lumpy and you spotted it and you wanted to give them a suggestion on how they could fix that. So you go into paragraph 1 and you simply type rewrite. It'll rewrite paragraph 1 for you and you can send that to the student and say, here's an example of using your words, how you could rewrite paragraph 1. Now that is coming, from our AI to you as a teacher. You work that into your relationship with the student. Everybody is winning. You are not spending more time. You're getting much more value to the student in much less time. And all of these commands that you give it, they are caught in history. So if you find yourself asking the same thing for each essay, we just go into history, bring it back. It's easy. If you wanted to give 3 suggestions per paragraph, so it was quite a lumpy piece of work. It didn't score well. It needs a lot of suggestions per paragraph. Just ask it for 3 suggestions per paragraph. And again, up it goes. The feedback will get written, read, and brought back down to you, and there they are there. So, for each of the paragraphs, we've got now 3 ways that the paragraphs could improve. It's really powerful, and you can ask it anything you like. We've got these ways of, I guess you could call them favorites, where we ask teachers what are the most favorite things they like to ask about the text. One of them obviously is, did it answer the question? So these are sort of preset for you, but they can change and you can change those and you can have them just as buttons that all of your teachers click and get the result. Everything you get back, goes through to student feedback. So it's really strong in getting what it's discovered back to the student, and everyone is seeing the same level of connection. I think a beautiful thing for you is you get to see, and so do the students, the teacher feedback. All of the feedback you've been giving is all recorded, okay? Now, most of the feedback you give right now is all lost. It's a tragic waste of data, okay? So we catch every bit of feedback. We then put it into what's called this overall dashboard for you. So over here, you have one click again, you've got your dashboard. You can see right across your class. If you're a teacher, you've got classes. If you're a head of department, you've got many classes. If you're a principal, you've got the school. If you're a district, you've got the whole group of schools. It rolls it up for you, okay? So everything that goes on in here, we catch. And I just mentioned feedback, so I'll click on it. It tracks all the feedback across all the different elements of feedback you've been giving. It actually lists all of the feedback you've been giving. So one of the great things you can do at any time is look at what types of feedbacks are going out, how many of them, at what frequency, and whether or not you should focus a group of students in on certain elements of writing. Okay, this is so much time savings, it's amazing. And if you want to see something like where you should focus your teaching tomorrow, let's have a look at a recent essay I've done in Year 9, or group of essays I've done in Year 9, and see where I should focus my time, okay? Now, anything green is good. Anything blue is okay. Red, obviously, 4 colors, four what we call quartiles. So academic word use is a big issue for all of these students. Let's get something going for them. You could lift their writing skills simply by doing that. You could also deal with cohesives. Okay, there's a lot of students that don't know how to use advanced cohesives. Let's fix that. If you can fix these individual pieces, as you see them, as they happen, you can make the difference that you've always wanted to make. And you're not doing any more than just understanding where your students are, what button to click, and you get back to your teaching. Okay, we're not going to run over the top of it. We're sort of in the background as this additional instructor helping you push through these challenges. And that's what it's all about. It's about really making you stronger and more effective in in the field. So I guess my parting sort of like conclusion would be, never ever bring software into your classroom if it doesn't help you do something better, quicker, and have more fun for the students. Okay, it has to do something better. It can't cost you more time. It has to do something quicker. It has to get you information at the right time, at the right place. And it's got to be fun for the kids. They don't want to not have fun learning. That's not fun, right? So they're the three sort of, I guess, pivots around which you should judge software. Will it make me better, quicker, and more fun with students? If the answer is yes to 2 or 3 of those, you're on a winner. Then all you got to do is really just work it into your classroom, trust it, and go with it, and it will make the difference that you're kind of looking for. So I think that's the great promise of AI, is that it does so much more for you than you do for it. Okay. And I see a lot of teachers using software where they spend hours putting a PDF into an LMS just so the students can read the PDF on a screen. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. You know, you're putting something that you could hand out in paper into a computer so they can then come down on the screen and then get printed out as paper again. That's a whole circle of waste of time, right? The way to think about AI is you do a little bit and you get a lot back. And that is why I think the future of education is, which was the topic of Selena's essay. So if I had to write an essay about that, I'd talk about better, quicker, and more fun. So thanks for your time. If you got any questions at all, you can raise them. I think we've got some Q&A coming. We're happy to answer questions. And of course, you can hit back on that email address that Selena put up on the screen, and we get in touch with you and we can work through your questions. So back to you.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I'd just like to clarify a few things about the technical design of Scribble. Scribble is the AI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it checks spellings, improves vocabulary, even checks grammar, pronunciation, improves reading comprehension and writing skills. Is this a earlier Selena mentioned 2 types of AI? Is Scribble a rules-based type of AI or a machine learning based?
It's completely machine learning based. So you've probably heard of these words coming out, generative AI, which is, you know, the whole ChatGPT thing where it takes data from you and it creates a response back. So that's really the essence of it. There's very little rules inside Scrivo. We've trained Scrivo to be very effective in the way that it responds to you as a machine learning environment.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
For Selena, you showed earlier a sample, like the teacher chose a video, a link to a video, and there's another one like an article from Inquirer. How does a Scribble filter what you want to come up in the you were preparing quiz, you were showing how to prepare the quiz earlier, the multiple choice quiz. So how does Scribble filter what you want to come out, or the questions that you'd like to Scribble to give to the students based on the competencies that you'd like to assess or measure?
Okay, so because when you consult GPT, you also need a level of critique yourself as a teacher. That's how we teach our students to use AI as well. So when we give them a video or text, they actually look at the script and based on the script come up with comprehension questions based on the script. So it's similar to how we look at reading comprehension, where there are open-ended questions, or in this case, multiple choice questions that test for their understanding. So when you look at the different levels, when you're trying to do differentiated learning, they actually look at different ways of asking the same question. Okay. So maybe for a level 10, I will need more sophisticated English to make sure they get the gist of the story or the text. But for a level 2, a grade 2 or grade 3, maybe they will simplify the language so that they understand the question that's suitable for their grade level.
All right. We're talking about how this AI can improve or close the learning gaps in the literacy skills of our students. So basically, the choice of materials or resources still will depend heavily on the teacher to ensure that it's aligned with the curriculum.
Yes, so we do have, so for English, it's quite open because there's grammar, vocabulary, all these resources are available. They're actually resources that are from Marshall Cavendish. But what's more important is that the teacher is the one that understands the students and their likes and dislikes, the trends, what gets the kids talking in the classroom are things that the AI cannot detect. It would be something that the teachers would be listening in on, and because they know their students best, I would say that the selection of materials and resources would be what will be something that the teacher would do.
Okay. Then I saw earlier some keywords. Were the keywords selected by Scribot or was that prepared by the teacher?
That was prepared by the Scribot actually. So as a teacher, I only typed in the future of education. That's all I typed in.
Okay.
So the whole idea of PEAC is that we build this environment for you that is instantly editable. Okay, so if there's something you want to add to it or you want to change, you can sort of take that 90% of the work done for you, give it that little flavor that you like, put some imagery in there, maybe another video, whatever you want to do to engage or lift engagement, and then you're done. So it's actually becomes better, quicker, and more fun for a teacher as well.
Yeah, I was about to ask if the teacher is able to edit the questions prepared by the
Absolutely. Yeah. We're just the additional instructor. We're not the teacher. Okay. So once the teacher's happy and they push, give it to the kids, that's your game, right? We're just doing all the hard work for you.
All right. Can Scribot be programmed or to know or be familiar with the curriculum of an education, like the state curriculum of the Philippines?
Yeah, it can. There's a lot in the ChatGPT world. So if I asked Scribot, we can try. Why don't we try? You go on to the next question, and I'll come back around. I'll type something into Scribot, and we'll see what it comes up with. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you can keep going with your questions, and I'll come back to you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think it's relevant to the question of rules-based or machine learning AI. So because it is machine learning AI, so the content that you feed it will then be its resource to study how a country or group of students learn the language. And from there, you can come up with questions or resources that are relevant because this is a machine learning AI.
Okay. Is there a space? We have a question here from one of our viewers. She's actually our regional program coordinator in Region 10 from Ms. Mirna Fantonalgo. Is there a space similar to Scribo for mathematics?
Yeah.
We don't do mathematics, but there's a really strong AI mathematics platform that we work with in Marshall Cavendish. Marshall Cavendish have got two real streams of AI running. They've got mathematics and science, and they've got English. So we do the English side. There definitely is a strong AI product for mathematics as well. It's really clever.
Okay. At what age or grade level should a teacher formally introduce AI to learners as tools for learning?
Oh, any age. Like I see it happening in year 3, where students are playing word games in Presto, or they've got flashcards where there's the native language on one side of the card, flip the card, there's an English on the other side. There's so many engagements you can have with students that you already have, but you just sort of make them more diversified, make them more fun, make them more accessible. It's about sort of changing from paper paradigm into something that's a lot more engaging and builds more data for teachers. So paper is always the line of last resort in teaching, but it doesn't give you any data, and it means you have to mark it. So once you decide you want to move into some data and you want to move into some automation around marking, you've got to take that next step into letting something help you do it. You can't keep doing it yourself.
Yeah, and from a teacher's perspective, I would say that if you would like to start from a young age, this is actually helpful. There are a few preschools or kindergartens in Singapore that are actually trying out AI. I would suggest that if AI were to start at a young age, that's where more monitoring takes place. And as they grow older, we are really facilitating that process where they use technology to help them learn. So in preschools, they talk about how certain students, they are limited by their drawing abilities, for example. And then they use AI to come up with pictures, and then they can come up with simple stories that can further accelerate their learning of the language.
Okay. I saw earlier that there's GPT detection with Scribot. There's been a lot of buzz about GPT. There's a question here on is Chat GPT a threat to data privacy?
Well, it's a great question. Whoever asked that. The way that we deal with it is you can have your own ChatGPT account, right? So that means they know you're a teacher. They know that you're passing data up to them. They say, and you have to take it on value, that they don't store any of the information that goes that way. Okay. I've got no reason to suspect them. The way that we do it is that they never see the teacher's name, they never see the student's name. All they see is the writing, and they do the analysis of the writing, and they send back feedback, and they don't store that. So we do it through Literato and Scribo, so it's completely anonymous. So they don't even know who it is. They just know there's one person asking lots of questions, and it's called Scribot. They'll never ever know, and it'll never be passed through any sensitive information from us to them. So that's the way that we utilize ChatGPT to maintain this, sort of like data privacy, and of course, keep kids and private information safe. It's really important.
Does Scribot have a feature on plagiarism check?
Oh, I think plagiarism is an old-fashioned thing. You can certainly ask Scribot, was this text plagiarized, and it will find it. Plagiarism is one of those things. ChatGPT is indexed on the human internet, which means they got it from somewhere, right? So if it's on the internet, pretty much from June or July last year, ChatGPT is going to know about it. So you don't get an accurate plagiarism detection, but you do get a good sense of what is not, written by a student. So it does have that built in. With ChatGPT detection, we know how much of the essay has been written by a ChatGPT bot. So we actually know how much, and that's plagiarism, really. They're plagiarizing from ChatGPT into their essay. So, I think plagiarism will start to die down, but I always ask the question, in advance of worrying about plagiarism, I say, have you ever, if your student was writing at a C level last week, and all of a sudden they're writing at an A level this week, something's changed. I think they might have got their information from somewhere other than their own head. You don't go up 3 levels of writing in 1 week. So I think teachers are still well in control of the classroom just by using a lot of common sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. There are some arguments against and apprehensions about artificial intelligence or AI, such as students can have too much dependence or reliance on AI-driven tools rather than teaching them how to complete tasks independently. What's your take on this?
It's true. Like, if we've had Google for years, right? And everyone's quite comfortable with Google now. But with Google, at least you have to copy and paste. So instead of having something write it for you, you could always copy and paste it from somewhere else. So I don't see really the difference. I think it's just something that we've got to step into. We have to lift the type of assessment that we ask students to do. If you ask them to recount some facts about World War II, that is a dead set hit for AI to do the work because it's factual. It doesn't need any sort of opinion to it. It's just a recount of things that happened during a war. Yeah, those are the sorts of essays I see a lot of teachers still writing. Still asking students to write. And then they get upset when they plagiarize. I mean, they're not really exciting essays to write. They're just recounts of what happened. So I think you've got to, to use ChatGPT or to use AI effectively, you've got to work a system where it's a higher level of thinking. You have to expect students to get information from somewhere, but what you want to see them doing is using that information to write a higher level essay. So they have to tell you what they think or how they feel about a certain topic, as opposed to just describe what a topic is. So I think, you've just got to push through that sort of ceiling where they're writing sort of like at a curriculum level into some more ideas, some more engaging ideas around how they think about topics, because that's something that AI can't do. It can't think. It can't have original thoughts. It only knows what it knows. It has no empathy. It doesn't do feelings very well. It doesn't describe how you sense things and how interrelationships work. It can't do that. But that's the trick, I think, is to write a different kind of assessment. The other way I'd suggest you get around that is every month or so, just do what I call a cold write. Now, a cold write means you turn off all support. You take everything away. Scribo does this, and you just get them to write 2 or 3 paragraphs about something, and you get a sense of how or what level of language they're using. If they're in a cold environment by themselves with no spell check, no grammar check, and they've got to write something that's maybe just a couple of paragraphs long, you get to see how their writing really is. Okay. Now, not a day goes by where I don't use spell checker. Okay. I don't like sending out emails and things with spelling errors all over it. So everybody uses this level of support. It's just part of our life now, but when you cut it away and you say, okay, write something without any support, you get to see how good or bad students really are. And that's what I call the baseline. So your challenge is to lift that baseline up so they can do that more confidently without these kind of tools helping them do it all the time.
All right, there's a question here from one of our viewers. AI can practically answer questions from the teacher. How can the teacher ensure that the student demonstrates an understanding of what they are learning?
I think you just got to change your question. I think if you ask it an obvious question, you're going to get an AI answer. If you put a bend in the question, a twist in the question, you'll find students, that's where students will come unstuck with AI. It won't answer the question. It'll go all around the question. So, I think it's just working with what is going to happen, but it's not about, I think, sort of penalizing students for using technology, because that's their future. You've got to let them enjoy that future. You've just got to saddle up alongside them and make sure they understand how much better they could be than just using ChatGPT, right? So you've got to take them past ChatGPT, and that's, I think, the challenge of teaching. Simply because the teachers are so much more cognitive than the AI the kids are using, right? You've got a lot more experience, you've got a lot more techniques of writing that you could impart with students. Don't worry so much about the content, worry about the technique and the thought that goes into writing. That's the job of the teacher, is not to worry about where that sentence came from, but how that sentence could be made so much better if they approached the argument this way. That's the value of a teacher. Okay, so always focus on your value. Don't worry about what AI is doing, because it's just going to keep doing more and more things. You can never keep worrying about that. You've got to really value what you bring to the table and make sure the students are getting more time from you about that.
Yeah, a very quick way to test for understanding would be to ask for application questions that require them to digest what they are learning and apply it to a certain scenario or case that they would be faced with in the real world. So that gives them an opportunity to do critical thinking and creative thinking as well.
All right. So would you suggest, Selena, that this type of AI, the Scribo that you should be best used in a face-to-face learning modality, or it's still?
So the idea of having a digital learning environment allows for different types of learning. So it could be a hybrid kind of environment. So even in Singapore, we are introducing a lot of home-based learning days so as to extend the learning beyond just the classroom. So we give the opportunity to the teacher to decide whether or not this lesson can be taken offline. They can do it on their own because this is now mobile accessible. So as long as you have a mobile phone, you can do the assignment. So they can do it at home. They don't have to do it in the classroom, so that more time in the classroom can be used more effectively to facilitate the learning process.
Yeah, I asked that because there's been, during the pandemic, there's been a lot concern on who's really doing the homework, the assignment, or the assessment of the student. If it's the student himself, or is there assistance from the parent, considering that they are doing it online or at home. So with this Scribot, yeah, is there potential to for Scribot to be transformative in terms of improving literacy rates?
Yeah, I think so. I think so because there's so much research, so much research comes out about how to improve writing, and really it comes down to a couple of things. Number one is you have to get the kids writing. That's number one. Number two is you have to write more. To get good at something, you have to do more of it. Okay, so when you sort of make that available to students without taking time away from teachers, this is I think the opportunity is to give students more opportunity to practice more and get more feedback without having that latency of waiting for a teacher to get back to them. So, to transform something, you got to do it very differently. And I think that's the difference you can bring, is you can put them into a safe place where they're writing with a safe assistant, a safe friend, a safe buddy, giving them feedback. It's a good place, and the data that's coming out of that is made visible. So it's very transparent. I think that is transformative. Yeah.
And I think because we are also faced with a challenge where teachers today are not AI trained.
Yeah.
We have almost no idea what this new, I don't know, do we call it a beast, is capable of. So there is a lot of hesitation and a lot of inertia to actually go and learn what is going on. So the idea of having Literatur, the digital English campus, is to support the teachers as well. So you don't feel like you are not qualified for this job, but that you, in learning how to deal with Scribot or using the tools that are available, it will help improve your efficacy as a teacher as well. So you are learning at the same time you are teaching. So that's what lifelong learning is about, even for teachers.
Yeah, and I think with your organization, Precy, there's a great opportunity for you to be part of this as well, because this is what's called the Gartner hype cycle. I just shared a screen. So what happens, what we're talking about here is AI takes off, and it's really, everyone's got these amazing expectations of what it can do. But then they fall into this trough of, it's called the trough of disillusionment. It's a horrible, horrible descriptor. But that's where sometimes technology can go, is that people expect a heck of a lot from it. It doesn't deliver, and it falls down to here. And then you've got to rebuild your confidence and get into this plateau of productivity, they call it, right? But you can see along the timeline here, it all takes time. And we don't really have a lot of time. A lot of kids are behind already. So what you've got to do is you've got to get people like you, Precy, and your team to build this bridge that kind of comes off where the excitement is and makes it really straight to the plateau of productivity. It gets going in classrooms quicker than before. And the bridge, that I call it the bridge to sustainability, is all about having professional development. Okay, you've got to backfill that chasm. You don't want to fall into that, or else it'll take too long to come out of it. So you've really got to get the excitement running and make sure that it gets into a productivity curve really quickly to be of huge benefit to teachers.
Thank you, Mark. There's another apprehension on the use of AI in education. If the learner would be spending more of his time interacting with this AI. There's an argument against AI wherein this could hamper the development of the social skills of the students. What's your take on that?
You mean more than PlayStation does now? Yeah, I mean, I watch kids on the bus, they're playing games non-stop 24/7. I don't see that as being a particularly social endeavor. So I don't know. I think, there is a calibration you have to have with kids around independent thought versus, whatever. But let's face it, they love using technology. They love learning with technology. Of course you can always use too much, but, I think there's too much of many other things, let alone, helping them write better. Yeah.
Yeah. How about the apprehension on loss of jobs for teachers with the emergence of AI?
But the thing is, teachers' jobs are not taken over by AI. There are many aspects of a teacher. Example, coaching. How do you have extra time to coach a student or a group of students who are struggling if you don't first make time for that, like in the classroom? If you can give students independent assignments and then have that extra time supported by AI, the extra time that you create within the classroom to allow for that kind of small group interaction, it gives teachers a more human way of, I think when we as teachers, when we are faced with many things that we need to do, we are just very task oriented, but we forgot that we also have the human aspect to offer. And that's the part that students need these days, because online learning is so prevalent now. They can learn anything however they want it, anytime they want it. But teachers come in as facilitators of learning. So not only to support but the weaker students, but to support the stronger students in their journey as well. So do I think that teachers' jobs will be taken over by AI? The answer is no.
No, definitely not. Benjamin Bloom, remember Benji Bloom, he suggested that one-on-one tutoring is the ultimate result for teaching and learning. That means, person to person. So yeah, a teacher said to me the other week, teachers won't be replaced by AI. They'll be replaced by teachers who know how to use it.
How does this AI, the system, secure and protect data of the students? When teachers and students they leave digital traces, content is generated, personal data or data on the performance of the students. What is the level of technical trustworthiness of this AI, and how does the system secure and protect the data of the students?
Okay, Percy, then I'd like to ask, what kind of data are we capturing on the platform? Because besides name and class, nothing personal. Nothing personal. Zero personal data, like, what is their account, where they stay. So I think in that aspect, we only capture, even the student name don't want to be fully reflected, we can capture by index number. So basically, we can only know the school, who is the teacher, the index number of the student. So what kind of personal data leak are you concerned about over these three very minor information that probably everybody can lay their hands on besides the platform?
Okay, all right. I think you've answered that question. What personal data is collected by the AI? How about the academic performance of the students? It's just the teacher who has access to this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a database. As every, I guess, online platform has a database. We've been working in this region for many years. We understand data security. We go through data audits. We work with the Singapore MOE. So we've had a lot of attention put around our security and what we do. We haven't been hacked. We don't plan to be, and whatever's contained in that database belongs to the school, not to us. Okay, so it's very secure place. It's all kind of like in in an Amazon data center. There's nothing that floats around. It's all very controlled.
Does this AI have a provision for individuals or differently abled learners like those with dyslexia?
I'm not sure I understood that question wholly.
I think she was talking
Whether can
about
this cater to
accessibility.
dyslexia? Yeah.
To students with
Accessibility.
dyslexia.
Everybody was talking at once. I think my sound is going a bit funny here.
Sorry,
Is
they were-
AI, does it have features or can it cater to students with a dyslexia?
Oh, dyslexia. Yeah. Like, you know, we do have these settings. I mean, dyslexia is kind of, I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that we've got accessibility options around keeping students focused on certain elements of feedback. So instead of giving them complete screens of things to read, I think that's where dyslexic people can have a bit of a problem. Also, color combinations. You know, boys will have a light blue black background on feedback, can really improve the level of connection to the writing that's on the screen. We have all those accessibility options built into the software. Yeah.
All right. Any last few words from Mark and Selena? Let's have Selena first. I think that's all the questions we have
yeah,
for now.
I just love to encourage the teachers out there to take that leap of faith to go and start something that you're uncomfortable with, because we are already living in a very uncomfortable world. What more, our students, the difficulties that they face, we cannot foresee them, but we can help them journey along their learning. And we don't know what future jobs are. Our idea of profession and accreditation is different and will be even more different to come. My degree might not even be relevant in 5 to 10 years from now. So navigating that, I think students will find it very stressful and they will be very lost. I think that's when teachers as coaches and mentors to life can help them and assist them in that journey.
Thank you, Selena. Mark?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Selena's right. I mean, the more effective teaching can be, the better result for students. But, you know, on the other side of it, students have to have access to get better. We have to break this kind of like us and them of private public schools. We have to make things accessible. We have to make things equitable, and we have to really help everybody along a learning journey. And I think, you know, if AI can help catch, you know, 60-70% of kids who don't have access to that sort of feedback, that's a really good thing, because then by the time they do find a teacher or a tutor in person, they've got even more acceleration, you know. So you can't always put it back on teachers to pick everybody up from ground zero and lift them. You know, we've got to have some support behind the teachers, and there's a huge shortage of teachers in the world. There's going to be more and more population growth. It's going to be fewer and fewer teachers. So we've got to sort of like have this additional capability, and it's something that we're going to learn to trust. But, you know, if you don't like it, you just simply turn it off. It's not a sentence, it's an opportunity.
Thank you, Selena and Mark. AI indeed is very promising. Okay, it has the potential to even transform quality of education. I think there's still a need to do more research on the use of AI in education and on its impact on the quality and effectiveness of learning. Thank you, Selena and Mark, for joining us this morning.
You're very welcome.
I'd like to close our session this morning on with an article written by Marcin Frakowitz that AI for improving literacy rates holds great promise, but it is essential to approach this endeavor with a balanced perspective by integrating AI-driven tools and platforms with existing educational systems and resources. We can create a powerful synergy that has the potential to transform the lives of millions of people around the world. And as we continue to explore the possibilities of AI in education, it is crucial that we remain focused on the ultimate goal, and that is empowering individuals with the skills and knowledge they need to thrive in the 21st century. We'd like to thank our viewers for joining us this morning. We'd also like to thank Marshall Cavendish Education for inviting Selena and Mark for this webinar. And of course, the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines, or SEAP, and APACO, the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities, for cross-posting LIDER 7. Also like to thank the members of the National Secretariat, especially Butch, Red, Terence, May, and Mark for their assistance. And we'd like to invite you to tomorrow for day 2 of this LIDER 7 webinar series. We'll be having Father Johnny Go on post-pandemic learning modalities, issues, and questions. Thanks, everyone, and you all have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Mark, thanks, Selena.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Percy. Thanks,
Alvin.
everyone. Bye.
Alvin and Raya.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.